Rodriguez v. United States, Supreme Court, 2015. Justice Ginsburg delivered the opinion of the court. In Illinois v. Caballes, this court held that a dog sniff conducted during a lawful traffic stop does not violate the Fourth Amendment's prescription of unreasonable seizures. This case presents the question whether the Fourth Amendment tolerates a dog sniff conducted after completion of a traffic stop. We hold that a police stop exceeding the time needed to handle the matter for which the stop was made violates the Constitution's shield against unreasonable seizures. A seizure justified only by a police-observed traffic violation, therefore, becomes unlawful if it is prolonged beyond the time reasonably required to complete the mission of issuing a ticket for the violation. The court so recognized in Caballes as we adhere to the line drawn in that decision. 1. Just after midnight on March 27, 2012, Officer Morgan Struble observed a Mercury Mountaineer veer slowly onto the shoulder of Nebraska State Highway 275 for 1 or 2 seconds and then jerk back onto the road. Nebraska law prohibits driving on highway shoulders, and on that basis, Struble pulled the Mountaineer over at 12:06 a.m. Struble is a K-9 officer with the Valley Police Department in Nebraska, and his dog Floyd was in his patrol car that night. 2 men were in the Mountaineer, the driver, Dennis Rodriguez, and the front seat passenger, Scott Pullman. Struble approached the Mountaineer on the passenger's side. After Rodriguez identified himself, Struble asked him why he had driven onto the shoulder. Rodriguez replied that he had swerved to avoid a pothole. Struble then gathered Rodriguez's license, registration, and proof of insurance and asked Rodriguez to accompany him to the patrol car. Rodriguez asked if he was required to do so, and Struble answered that he was not. Rodriguez decided to wait in his own vehicle. After running a records check on Rodriguez, Struble returned to the Mountaineer. Struble asked passenger Pullman for his driver's license and began to question him about where the 2 men were coming from and where they were going. Pullman replied that they had traveled to Omaha, Nebraska to look at a Ford Mustang that was for sale, and that they were returning to Norfolk, Nebraska. Struble returned again to his patrol car, where he completed a records check on Pullman and called for a second officer. Struble then began writing a warning ticket for Rodriguez for driving on the shoulder of the road. Struble returned to Rodriguez's vehicle a 3rd time to issue the written warning. By 12:27 or 12:28 a.m., Struble had finished explaining the warning to Rodriguez and had given back to Rodriguez and Pullman their documents obtained from them. As Struble later testified, at that point, Rodriguez and Pullman had all their documents back and a copy of the written warning. I got all the reasons for the stop out of the way, took care of all the business. Nevertheless, Struble did not consider Rodriguez free to leave. Although justification for the traffic stop was out of the way, Struble asked for permission to walk his dog around Rodriguez's vehicle. Rodriguez said no. Struble then instructed Rodriguez to turn off the ignition, exit the vehicle, and stand in front of the patrol car to wait for the second officer. Rodriguez complied. At 12:33 a.m., a deputy sheriff arrived. Struble retrieved his dog and led him twice around the Mountaineer. The dog alerted to the presence of drugs halfway through Struble's second pass. All told, 7 or 8 minutes had elapsed from the time Struble issued the written warning until the dog indicated the presence of drugs. A search of the vehicle revealed a large bag of methamphetamine. 2. A seizure for a traffic violation justifies a police investigation of that violation. A relatively brief encounter, a routine traffic stop, is more analogous to a so-called Terry stop than to a formal arrest. Like a Terry stop, the tolerable duration of police inquiries in the traffic stop context is determined by the seizure's mission to address the traffic violation that warranted the stop and attend to related safety concerns. Because addressing the infraction is the purpose of the stop, it may last no longer than is necessary to effectuate that purpose. Authority for the seizure thus ends when tasks tied to the traffic infraction are, or reasonably should be, completed. In Cabayas, however, we cautioned that a traffic stop can become unlawful if it is prolonged beyond the time reasonably required to complete the mission of issuing a warning ticket. An officer, in other words, may conduct certain unrelated checks during an otherwise lawful traffic stop, but he may not do so in a way that prolongs the stop, absent the reasonable suspicion ordinarily demanded to justify detaining an individual. Beyond determining whether to issue a traffic ticket, an officer's mission includes ordinary inquiries incident to the traffic stop. Typically, such inquiries involve checking the driver's license, determining whether there are outstanding warrants against the driver, and inspecting the automobile's registration and proof of insurance. These checks serve the same objective as enforcement of the traffic code, ensuring that vehicles on the road are operated safely and responsibly. A dog sniff, by contrast, is a measured aim at detecting evidence of ordinary criminal wrongdoing. Lacking the same close connection to roadway safety as the ordinary inquiries, a dog sniff is not fairly characterized as part of the officer's traffic mission.